This is not a crypto channel. This is not a crypto channel. This is a crypto channel. Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back. Yeah, I didn't mean for this to become a crypto channel, but I figured that since the Bitcoin price has been fluctuating so much recently, and we've seen so much news of institutions adopting it as a legitimate asset class, it would be helpful if I made another video describing what I thought about the future of Bitcoin in general. And I'm not just talking about the price of Bitcoin, but I'm talking about also the technology and kind of from a finance perspective, how it's disrupting kind of this space in general. Because if we really think about Bitcoin or crypto in general, it's becoming an asset class just like any other, right? So if it is an asset class, does it really deserve a place in our portfolio the same way that stocks, real estate, bonds, and like gold and whatnot? Well, that question is up to you, right? So I think that most of you on this channel mostly care about stocks because I realize it is the most accessible sort of asset class to the common person. However, if we're really trying to be proper, well-rounded investors, well, I think that it would be like in our best interest to pay attention to other asset classes as well. Lastly, before I begin, I do realize the fact that there are a lot of kind of clickbait and pump and dumpers in the crypto space here on YouTube. And I'm not going to name any names, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to make my videos the least amount of like clickbait as possible. So I don't do pump and dumps. So like, I don't want to say like the least amount of pump and dumps because I just don't do those in general. But you know, I have been accused of doing clickbait before, and I'm sorry if you think that way. So therefore, I'm going to leave timestamps down below where you can jump around the video in case you don't want to hear some topics and you just want to focus on the main points and you just want to get to the main topics. So yeah, all that I ask is that it does take a lot of time for me to make this video. So all that I ask is that you do hit the like button and comment down below for the YouTube algorithm. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So I know you guys all want to know about price predictions, but before I get into that, which I will in just a second, but before I get into that, I just want to share some news about Bitcoin that have come out recently that I think that are just more positive signs and more positive catalysts that will continue to propel the price up. So before I give like price predictions or talk about price predictions, I just want to give you guys some news on why it's going up. Which I think it will. So first bit of news, we all know about Tesla's $1.5 billion purchase of Bitcoin. One piece of news that came out recently regarding that is that Tesla's decision to run their own Bitcoin node. So if you don't know what a node is, it's basically a full copy of the blockchain. And the more nodes there are, the more spread out the network is, the more decentralized it is. So if you think about something like a Bitcoin, there's nodes located all over the world in like almost every country in the world. So it's really hard to shut down Bitcoin, right? In order to shut down Bitcoin, you would have to shut down the entire internet basically, right? So it's near impossible to shut down Bitcoin, which is due to the fact that it is decentralized. So there's no one single entity that controls it. So you can see why decentralization is so important, and it also contributes to why Bitcoin is so secure, because there are so many copies of the blockchain that we can all reference against each other, and it's being constantly synchronized. So if I try to, for example, give myself more Bitcoin by modifying the blockchain, well, I can modify my own copy, right? I can create my own malicious node. However, if I do that, then my blockchain, my version of the blockchain is going to look different than everyone else's, and that's going to be invalid, right? So that kind of prevents fraud. So the more nodes there are, the more secure the network is. So you can kind of think of it as playing Monopoly, where there's no dedicated person as like the banker, right? So the banker is just another player. So it depends on the other players to keep each other accountable when you're playing Monopoly. So for example, if I was playing Monopoly and I just decided to grab a wad of cash out of the bank, well, then the other players would kind of stop me, right? Be like, hey, what are you doing? You're cheating. So you can kind of think of running a node as just adding another agent to the network to monitor and validate the transactions to prevent fraud. So the reason why this is so significant that Tesla is doing it, because it demonstrates how Tesla is fully committed to Bitcoin, like the idea of Bitcoin itself. And they're not just using it to like make money and stuff, and they're not just in it for like a day trade or something, right? So Not that anyone thought that they were just going to day trade in the first place, but it shows that Tesla's actually dedicated to the mission, which, fun fact, if you remember, Elon Musk is he was one of the founders of PayPal, right? So being like a payments network, he obviously has an understanding of economics of payments and things like that. So I know he always says, I'm not an investor, I'm just an engineer and things like that. But, obviously he understands economics because he worked at PayPal, or he founded PayPal. So yeah, as I said, it shows Tesla's commitment to the mission of Bitcoin, which is to create this decentralized, independent monetary system, which means that Tesla really believes that Bitcoin is here to stay. Further, Elon Musk stated that if you choose to buy a Tesla with Bitcoin, it will be retained as Bitcoin and not converted back to US dollars or any other fiat currencies. And you got that tweet from Peter Schiff down there asking him if he'll accept eggplant NFTs. And oh man, I don't know if he's just trolling at this point, but I can't wait to see the day when he has to admit that he's wrong and forced to buy Bitcoin when it's at like $500,000 or like $1 million or something. So mark my words, it's going to happen. Anyways, moving on. Morgan Stanley, you might have heard of them. They're one of the biggest financial institutions in the world. They recently just announced that they will be offering 3 Bitcoin products to some of their most wealthy clients. At this point, I think that we're all tired of hearing news like this, right? So we hear news like this almost every week at this point, where some bank somewhere around the world is offering crypto products to their VIP clients. And I think that most people, your eyes just like glaze over when you hear this news, right? But the reason why I bring this up is that for years and years, we've been hearing all these like big financial institutions saying that, oh, Bitcoin's a fad or is a Ponzi scheme, worse yet. Do you really believe that these institutions will be offering crypto products to its wealthiest clients, to its VIP clients, if it thinks that it's a Ponzi scheme, or if they still thought it was a fad? Maybe they thought about it at one point and then they're like, oh, this is a fad, but clearly they've all changed their minds, right? So think about that for a second, right? And last bit of news. We're also hearing reports that the Biden administration is preparing an infrastructure plan that is going to be estimated $3 to $4 trillion in size. And at this point, I think that the range is so large, it's literally like a $1 trillion gap, right? That's crazy to me. So it could be 3 trillion, it could be 4 trillion, who knows? Whatever, a few $100 billion is just literally a rounding error at this point. And I don't want to get political because this is not a politics channel, so I won't say that whether or not I think is right or wrong that the US should be printing all this money and injecting another $3 to $4 trillion into the system. If you want to see a breakdown of what's in the bill, however, Meet Kevin did a great video on this, and he's kind of the expert here on YouTube on these kind of things, so I'll defer to his expertise. Quite frankly, I'm not that interested in what's in the bill because I'm Canadian, I live in Canada, but let me just point out that back in 2009, in response to the Great Recession, then President Barack Obama signed a $787 billion stimulus package. And of course, you can see that Biden was standing beside Obama when he signed the bill because Biden was vice president at the time. And remember how many people were trashing Obama at the time when he signed it, because they were saying how he was recklessly spending and it was the most expensive stimulus package to date. Well, look at what's happening now, right? Again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't spend money, or I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a stimulus bill or infrastructure improvements. My concern is that the value of the US dollar, which is kind of what the global economy is hinged on, where trillions and trillions of dollars are being printed out of thin air, the value of each dollar is inevitably going to go down at some point, right? So that's just kind of how it works, right? Imagine for anything except, like, imagine gold, right? Like if you could mine a bunch of gold, or you could make gold appear out of thin air, well then gold would be useless, right? So that was kind of my argument where, like, the asteroid mining, if you remember that video, I'm not sure how many of you saw it, but my point of that video was that in the future, if we unlock the technology to mine asteroids and we bring an asteroid home, well then asteroids have like tons and tons of gold in just any random old asteroid, right? So if we pick the right asteroid, we bring it home, well then the value of gold would inevitably collapse, right? Because we'd have like thousands or millions of metric tons of gold. So that was kind of my point, where we're pretty far off from maybe like bring an asteroid home, but print fiat money, we can definitely have the technology and we have the capability of doing so now. Okay, so why am I bringing all this up though? Well, all of this has to do with the price predictions that I promised that I was going to talk about earlier. So for this, I would like to introduce you to something called the stock to flow model. So this was designed by someone named Plan B, or I guess Plan Bitcoin is what it stands for. Yeah, he's apparently some type of like analyst, and he took this like pricing model that was meant for precious metals like gold, silver, platinum, and he applied it to Bitcoin. So the way that it works in a nutshell is that it evaluates the price movements of a commodity, like a rare commodity, against the amount of the commodity that is available and the new supply that is being added to the system. So you can intuitively think about how such a model could be helpful for something that is scarce, that can be mined, like gold, like silver, or in this case, Bitcoin. So if we were to look at this chart, so far it has done a pretty good job at tracking Bitcoin price. So let me try to explain this chart a bit first, okay? So on the vertical axis, you can see how the prices of Bitcoin is labeled in steps of multiples of 10. And this is because this chart is in a logarithmic scale. So the advantage of using logarithmic scales is that it lets you see sort of the price movements a little better in terms of proportions and percentages, as opposed to absolute value. So it like kind of eliminates a lot of distortion caused by like absolute value spikes. And as you can see, the solid line is the average price predicted by the stock to flow model. And the reason why it's going up in this weird kind of step pattern is because of Bitcoin's halving cycle. So if you remember the block reward generated by mining Bitcoin, it gets cut in half roughly every 4 years. And the color line indicates the actual price of Bitcoin, where the colors indicate the amount of days until the next halving. As you can see, whenever the line turns green, which is sort of kind of in the middle of the cycle, usually that's where you hit the local peak and we experience a small pullback. So we're not there yet. As you can see, the line is still kind of like yellow or orange-ish at the moment. So according to the stock to flow, we're on track to hit about 90,000 US dollars per coin by December of this year. However, as you probably noticed, that whenever the line turns green, it does tend to overshoot the predicted price. So if the price follows the stock to flow model like it did in the past, and again, I'm not saying that it will, because past performance doesn't always indicate future. However, if it does follow the past, then we can expect the price to go well beyond 100K or maybe even 200K per coin. And I'm talking about US dollars, by the way. So in fact, the creator of the stock to flow, Mr. Plan B himself, has stated that it could hit as high as 288,000 US dollars per coin by the end of this year. And once again, I just got to mention that none of this is guaranteed, and don't take it as gospel. And nothing I say is financial advice, so please don't make any financial decisions based on what you hear on this channel or just from anyone in general on YouTube. Always do your own research before buying or selling anything or making any type of financial decision. But I'm just here to bring you the news, and what I'm seeing is some really bullish signs for Bitcoin for the rest of this year. But that's just my opinion. As to what I'm doing, well, of course, I'm just going to add more to my Bitcoin position as the time goes on. So, I'm going to be dedicating a significant portion of my investing budget to, in the next few months or next year or so, to adding up or hodling more Bitcoin. So, anyways, that's the video for today. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you like the series. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!